Hello, and thank you for listening to the podcast. We appreciate it, and we appreciate a lot of help from a lot of people all throughout this journey. So we've got a couple of shout outs we're going to make here. The first shout out being to Beck Sutton, the graphics designer who is designing our logo. She is the creator and owner of Primal Studios, which can be found on Facebook. Or if you go to primalst.com, you'll be able to find her work there, and she is fantastic at what she does.
Yeah, and the second shout out we'd like to make is to Andrew Stanton, composer of the song Escape the Oppression, which is the kick-ass song for our intro. We love the song, we love the dude. You can check out more of his stuff on soundstripe.com, where there's plenty of songs by plenty of other artists as well, where you can license for podcasts. So go check it out and see what's on there and see what you can use.
Stay frosty. Hello and welcome to the Songs That Made Us, the podcast that likes to fuss hotly about a town called Sam. And you're here with me.
Sorry, so Jake's laughing now because that reference flew right over my head. I have no idea what you're on about.
Do you not?
No.
I thought you would, and I wouldn't.
What? Of course you would know because you've said it.
The Killers.
Oh mate, I'm not that big of a fan of the Killers. Oh, you've completely misjudged this.
I reckon we maintain that that's the intro.
Yeah. I mean, go with the flow. I mean, it either lands for someone or it doesn't. It definitely didn't for me.
Oh, it came out of left field at least. I've been sitting on that one for weeks. My brain pan just like manifesting itself.
You made the biggest mistake, trying to pander to me, and everything flies right over my head, man. As we've already established, I don't even notice when you change your hair color.
Well, yeah, that's a fair point. So my hair has been blue for all of the recording so far. It's now green, and he's only noticed it because I pointed it out. But you are here, of course, with me, Jake Hughes and Connor Reed.
Hello.
Just get slightly back on track. So today's a bit of a special episode. We decided to set ourselves a little bit of a challenge, just so we could record a couple of extra bits where we didn't have to sort of try and bring people in, and so we could just record ad hoc more than anything. But the challenge we set ourselves is to basically go through our music likes, albums we listen to a lot, and try and find the most obscure album or artist that we can find.
Yeah, and so basically this is our biggest attempt yet at being unaccessible as possible. Because not only is it just us two talking and being self-indulgent again, but we've gone for obscure albums, and we both managed, I think, to go with two of the most obscure albums you could possibly go for. Well, I would be really surprised if anyone listening to this has heard of either of them.
The first thing I did when you picked your album was I did Google it to see if they had a Wikipedia page, and then I would have gone, haha, I've won in the most obscure category, but it didn't have a wiki, so I was like, no.
You can't, with the album I picked, you can't even find lyrics online.
No. Whereas with mine you can, but that's because the artists put the lyrics up themselves on the videos.
Well, with yours, I think the only way I found your album in the end, because you sent me a drive with the album, but it didn't work when I clicked on it. So I managed to find it on YouTube, and I think I found it on the band's YouTube.
It is, yeah.
Account, and they have what is it? I think it's 74 subscribers.
The band's not even active anymore, so but so yeah, this is going to be pretty much our hipster wankathon.
Yeah.
Where we prove how niche we are.
But to be honest, I think we've picked two really good albums here. I mean, not to toot our own horn. So if we can get some exposure for them and broaden people's music taste,
it's not going to matter.
Why not?
It's not going to matter for my band. They're dead. That's the thing. The band's gone. Their last show was in 2015.
Fair. I mean, you can go back and listen to their other stuff. I mean, the artist I pick, unfortunately, has actually passed away as well.
He's dead.
So, which isn't a laughing matter. I'm only chuckling from the last joke. God.
That's bad, isn't it? We've already
Yeah.
started with laughing at people dying.
Like we said,
Bowie,
we're making
his
this.
death was perfect.
Oh, no. Like we said, we're making this as inaccessible as possible. Let's see how we can do this. I think it'll be impressive to make a podcast
Oh,
this
is always better on
unreachable.
the shits. It's only going to get worse, folks. I promise.
Yeah.
Who do I victimize today?
Well, it's probably going to be me, isn't it? Because we don't have a guest. This will be an interesting one because you've gotten into a habit lately of just taking the piss out of me in front of someone else, which is
Oh,
fine.
that
Which is
was only
fine.
that was only the one episode,
So yeah.
which may or may not be released by this time, but it was the one episode. And as established, I was on sleeping tablets that day. That night we recorded.
Sleeping tablets make you aggressive.
They don't necessarily make me aggressive. Not as aggressive as vodka's made me in the past.
True that.
Yeah, I die for right hooks. But well, what we'll do, we'll go into the first album.
Yes.
This is an episode. We're already doing an episode.
Yes. Nice to have you here, Jake. Good. Welcome back on track.
Remember all the way back on the very first episode when I said I wanted people to recognise my intelligence? Well, they're recognising something right now, and it's not my intelligence. It's my dim-witted nature. So dim-witted that I can't even dye my hair properly.
It's not intelligence. It's just pure confidence and just rolling with it.
I'll roll with it, but I wouldn't necessarily describe myself as confident. I would describe myself as at best Weasley.
At best, Weasley.
I don't know what at worst would be, but at worst is a horrifying visage in my mind. But the first album we're going for is an album released in 2011. It's an album called Creaturette by the Mad Young Darlings, or Mad Young Darlings, not the Mad Young Darlings, just Mad Young Darlings. And I wanted to go for this album, because with all the albums we've picked so far, we've been a right sausage fest.
Yes, yeah, fair.
Been all male singers so far,
Mm-hmm.
apart from a very special show potentially coming up. So I wanted to go for a female-led band with fantastic vocals, and I didn't want to do something that I would hate, like Paramore,
Yeah.
Or I didn't fancy going all the way back in time and doing Evanescence either, because none of those are obscure. Those are all...
No, I mean, we could go for like Stevie Nicks or anything like that, but that's against the point of this episode.
Well, I wish Stevie Nicks was a bit more obscure.
Why would you wish that?
She had some good stuff, but...
What?
What's
wrong with you?
I just always view
She's one of the most celebrated like female artists of all time. And you're like, yeah, she's done some all right stuff.
I always prefer Jefferson Airplane, or Jefferson Starship, whatever you want to call them, whichever. Yeah, White Rabbit's better than Dreams or Lies.
Don't agree.
White Rabbit is a fantastic song.
Okay, don't agree. No, it's a good song. But...
It's a perfect LSD song.
So yes, and this album is Creaturette by Mad Young Darlings.
Indeed it is.
Yeah.
And it's a fantastic album. Dare I say it off the bat. It is a phenomenal album. I love it dearly. Unfortunately, as I've already said, the band doesn't exist anymore, which is a bit of a shame because they had a hell of a sound, considering this is their first album. But I think they're from... I could be wrong here. I think they're from Canada.
Okay. I was actually going to ask where they're from because I couldn't pin it down when listening to it. I thought a more general sort of American, because they remind me, at risk of doing some polls like really early, they remind me a lot of the sound of like bands like Shinedown or even Avenged Sevenfold. They have hints of that sort of stuff with also some mixed in stuff like your Linkin Parks with certain production values and stuff. So I thought it was genuinely a more American sound. I wasn't sure.
Yeah, no, they're definitely from Canada. I've just double checked. So they're from Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada.
Okay, cool. Yeah, but really hard, cool band. Really hard, cool band.
Yeah, so in continuing the same theme that we've gone for on every episode so far, all my polls always seem to have a harder edge. Now, bear in mind, I had 3 bands to pick from when I thought of the idea. So I was going to go for Say Yes, who are also a Canadian band, who have Ratbeard, Jordan Hastings from Alexis on Fire, whatever you want to call them, who's also the drummer for Billy Talent at the moment.
Yeah.
Who I saw supporting Billy Talent, which I felt sorry for Jordan Hastings on account of he had to play the support set, then go off, and then come back on. Which isn't the easiest gig in the world on account of Billy Talent being hard asses. But I thought they were slightly more known just because of the Jordan Hastings connection. Yeah. So, and the fact that Ian Desar produced some of their debut album as well.
Well, fair.
Yeah, he does a lot of production. I think he does some of the production on the Billy Talent stuff nowadays as well.
Oh, really? Good on him.
Yeah, and Ian Desar, for anyone who's listening, which, as we've probably established, is me and Connor. He's a phenomenal guitarist, phenomenal songwriter, phenomenal backing vocalist, but also really great at production and pushing the Say Yes into different directions with their songwriting. But we're not talking about Say Yes anyway. So the other band would have been the Indelicates, but again, they've actually got a wiki page, so that was
not quite obscure enough.
No, although again, they are fairly obscure.
Yeah.
But we'll be talking about them at some point, and in much greater depth. I don't want to, I don't want to hint at the future or possibly the past, depending when this is released. This one.
That's a very good point. Yeah.
Yeah, just thought we're recording this before we record anything else, but the Indelicates should be coming up, and we should be talking about them a lot more. But so this album, this was the first one that came to my mind when I thought obscure. Oh, My Young Darlings. Nobody knows them. And it's really tenuous how I know of them as well.
Okay, explain.
Let me take a drag of my cigarette and I will. This is more important, goddammit. So, for people who know me, I'm a massive Kevin Smith fan. And a massive fan of the whole View Askew universe and his films and his podcasts. And, his podcast being stuff like Fat Man on Batman, which has changed now because Kevin Smith has lost a lot of weight, but also things like Hollywood Babylon, which he does with Ralph Garman. But one of the podcasts that he has only appeared on a couple of times is a podcast called Tell 'em Steve Dave, which is a poll from Mallrats. I think it's the first time it was used, which is with Steve Dave from that film, which is Brian Johnson and Walt Flanagan, who are two of his lifelong friends.
Yeah.
But also has Brian Quinn from the Impractical Jokers, back before he was an Impractical Joker, or before Impractical Jokers picked up, when he was just a fireman in New York or Staten Island. But they used to do a thing, so they're a massive podcast nowadays. Like, they've run for close to 400 episodes, much further than we have. But they started doing a thing, and I can't remember when it roughly was. I can't remember which episode it was on even. But they started at the end of their shows, they would play an unsigned band.
Yeah. It's a really lovely idea, really, really great idea to sort of give bands an opportunity to get some exposure and for people to check out new music. It's nice.
Well, especially with it being unsigned bands as well. Like, obviously, it's partially because they can get away with playing those songs on there.
Yeah, of course.
Which helps. But yeah, it does bring more listeners to those bands. So the song they played was the sixth song on this album, which is Swarm.
Yeah.
Which is a hard-hitting song. It's
very hard.
It's very hard, very fast. So I heard that and went, holy shit, what's this song? This is grabbed by the balls. Let's find out. And it's the thing of, well, like, I don't want to get into a sexism debate here, or sexism conversation so much.
Yeah.
I think our views on it are clear. People should be equal. Although the temptation to say outright offensive stuff is always in the back of my mind. So.
Oh, no. Carry on. You're on a good roll there. There's no need.
Should I be opening this door? Is it safe? I think it's safe to say for the majority, and I think this goes both ways, or at least it has from my experience with some of my friends. Most people will majority listen to artists or albums by artists who are of their own gender. because it's easier to hook yourself into it. It's easier to put yourself in those shoes with the lyrics
Yeah,
because it's
I
coming
get
from
you.
your
Yeah,
voice.
yeah. It's a
So
broad statement, but I can understand where the psychology goes into it. Yeah.
it's not unfounded. So one of my best friends, it's wrong to say one of my best friends is female, God damn it. One of my best friends is female. She's a pain in the ass, but she's female nonetheless.
Mm.
But her view is she only really loves listening to bands who are female led
Yeah.
because it speaks more to her than same. And I think if we look through sort of our Spotify, our album collections, the majority is going to be made up by male fronted bands.
Yeah, I would definitely agree that that's probably the case with me, and not for any particular reason. That's just the way it's sort of ended up. But yeah, it could have a lot to do with, I mean, yeah,
I
relatable experience, and you listen to music that speaks to you, and it's bound to speak to you more if people are more similar to you.
I mean, it's also that and sexism within the music business in general.
Yeah, I
Where,
mean that's very true. I mean, like from our point of view, well, just for a fact, I would say it's not a broad statement to say that in general more male-led bands and more male-led music just gets out there more. And if you look at the all-time biggest artists, they're going to be mostly male.
especially I find in rock,
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
because you it's
Especially
that
when you
thing of
talk about
sex sells, isn't it?
rock, and especially when you talk about rock as heavy as this as well.
Oh god, yeah, because the bands you pulled from initially with like Avenged, Linkin Park, all that kind, all male dominated bands.
Yeah.
Um, but this one, so the easy comparison to draw would be Paramore, Evanescence, bands like that, just because
Yeah.
it is female led. But
Yeah.
musically, I would 100% go for something like Shinedown.
Yeah, completely. I
Would
said so. Like, uh, yeah, we shouldn't go into those sort of comparisons with those other bands and other bands like Wolf Alice and stuff with female-led singers, just because these guys just don't sound anything like them. And her voice, I don't know the lead singer of Mad
Argent
Young
Islands.
Darlings.
Come on, we're doing this
Yeah,
now.
yes, I don't know her name, but her voice is amazing, and it's so different to all of them. I don't think she does sound like any of those vocalists, who are all excellent in their own right as well. But I don't think she sounds anything like them at all. If anything,
Also,
I actually get some when I was listening to it, I get a lot of comparisons to some like hard 80s heavier stuff when I hear her voice.
I think it's a sort of it's musically going back to the music side of it for a minute. It's a weird mix of things. So you can pull from sort of thrash era metal of the 80s.
Mm,
You can also pull from heavily from new metal of the 90s, with the low tune guitars, heavy
yeah,
clunking riffs. Not much in the way of solos going on, but the guitar
no.
work's always there and always present.
Yeah, yeah, and there's some amazing riffs or that are going on in the background. That they really stand out when they do play.
Well,
Um,
and the lead singer is Natasha Reske Naroki, and
yeah,
I've probably butchered that name.
fair, but her voice is amazing, and her vocal, the choices she makes in the songs are excellent. Like, because it was the one thing, and we've already kind of touched on it when we're talking about the fact that it pulls from all these different kind of genres, is that this album doesn't have no, that's unfair to say. It does have a consistent sound going through it, but the songs they play around with different genres of rock and of heavy metal, and like
With the Linkin Park comparison that you pulled earlier, was that more because of the sort of dance or electronic beats they have in some of the songs?
yeah, and it's specifically the second song, which is Underling, I think.
Yeah,
I think that was the song, where it has this almost like drum and bass
yeah,
background drums, and like which really shocked me, because you go from the first song, which is a very hard, heavy, very much like Shine Down, sort of a lot of slides on the distorted guitar. It's very, very heavy, and it stands out, good riffs and great singing. And then you go to the second song, and it suddenly becomes like this, like almost like Enter Shikari slash Linkin Park, like drum and bass backing track with much faster guitar. And now she's choosing to sing. She's purposely choosing to sing out of tune sometimes and putting a lot of distortion onto her voice in a way that makes it kind of feel very different to the first song. And then later on in the album, I think at the midway point, you get into your much more straightforward hard rock, and she's singing very melodically, a lot like your Paramours actually. And then
Yeah, there's certain
suddenly,
songs like Parabon, Paraphernalia, and Hard Fanatic,
yeah,
which those are sort of two of the middle songs, so song 7 and song 8.
yeah,
Those are the more sort of straightforward, but they still have the, especially Parabon, Paraphernalia, that has more of the dance rock in the back, or the dance beat in the background,
yeah, completely,
underscoring the whole rock element. But
yeah.
her vocals are very much more straightforward on those two.
Yeah, and then you also have a couple other songs that sound almost like Corn, like a lot like Corn, and she sounds a lot like the lead singer from Corn as well. And I love it when they do that. That's some of my favorite stuff on the album. When it's a bit more interesting, like because the whole album is really good, but I will say it dips into on certain songs it dips into a more generic style,
Mhm.
with it's sounding similar to stuff you've heard before, but still done very well in a very good way. Um, and if you do listen to bands like Shinedown and stuff, you'll really enjoy those tracks. But then there's when they go into this more experimental realm where it becomes a bit more insidious, and it sounds like I said, it sounds a lot more like Korn, but it's still very different in its own right. And she's playing around specifically because she's, for me, she's like the focal point in this album. I was paying attention to her most. Everyone in the album is excellent, but she is phenomenal. And she plays around with the way she says certain words with consonants, and she plays around with, like I said, dipping out of tune to evoke sort of this atmosphere or feeling. And it works really well. And that's when the music's the most interesting for me. But they're very experimental on this whole album.
I've just realised why you're able to find lyrics.
Right.
So if you go on to genius.com, do you want to know who transcribed all those lyrics?
Who?
Me.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'd forgotten I'd done that.
So,
But
wait, so the only reason you can find lyrics on this album is because you wrote them and put them out on there.
no, that's a bit of a lie. So I stole them from YouTube. So YouTube
Right,
has lyrics on there from the artist. I
right.
dragged them and made sure they're on Genius as well, so other people could find them.
Oh, there
But
you
I've
go.
I've only realised I only realised that when I was just having a quick look at some of the lyrics now, and it's like, where's my name there? I don't remember doing this. But it would have been the same time because I did a bunch for the Cribs and I did some for Say Yes as well.
Hmm.
Not very many to be fair, but no Creature App because I had all the lyrics there. It's like, well, makes sense. We'll put them on something. So if you find lyrics online on Genius.com, credit to your boy,
There
and you can thank me
you
later,
go.
back, darlings. Although you never hear this because you don't exist anymore, but still.
But yeah, and that's such a shame, man, because you definitely hear in this album. This album's a great album in its own right, but you definitely hear they had so much potential, and they were playing around with some really interesting sounds that I would have loved to have heard them develop and make more of. Um, yeah, especially I just can't. I couldn't get over her voice. Her voice was so interesting and so different and so good.
Going back to her vocals for a minute.
Why are you saying going back? That's literally the last thing I said.
It's because I stopped listening to you and I thought we had to move on. So I was just glancing around my room, just going, "Oh yeah, Connor's still talking." Anyway, this is what I want to say.
So professional.
Oh god, I'm sorry guys. I've fucked this one right up. If you're gonna do a podcast, people, the way to be professional is to listen to your co-host when he's talking, because that
Yeah.
way you know when you're going to be coming in properly.
I told you this would be a bullying session, but it's not even bullying. You're just
It
not
was.
listening to you're just waiting for you to talk, and then when I listen to this back, you would have edited me out completely.
Oh, to be fair, you were rambling. I had to save it somehow. But going back to the vocals, now I can use it because
Right.
we moved on. Going
Okay.
back, going back to the vocals, there's a particular song I want to talk about, which is Serotonin,
Mm,
which, as you all know, I love a good song about depression.
yeah.
It always speaks to me. But her vocals in that song, you get to a certain point where it goes into a bridge, and she's essentially singing about overdosing. First
Yeah.
I took one pill, then I took two, blah 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 blah, until it goes on to then I took five. No, then I took five, which led to 10. Now I'll never be sad again. Um, when she starts singing the chorus again after that, and goes into the serotonin makes me shake, her voice cracks perfectly.
Yeah.
And I always describe it as a is probably the wrong word to use, but I would describe it as a more demented sound.
Right.
And it sounds like a person who is mad trying to sing it.
It's like anguish. It's a lot of emotion put into it, and you can tell there's a lot of passion put into the vocals in this album.
Yeah, she's a phenomenal singer.
Mm.
I don't know how she could describe it. And again, the whole album is a testament to that. So even though I pull out Serotonin just because I think the way she sings on it is interesting, it's a unique way of doing the vocals on it. Like you could have done it generic rock, put a bit of distortion on your voice and sing it that way, but it's just the way it cracks is perfect. But you listen to sort of other songs like Better Knew You, where she goes into the higher range of her vocals.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, damn it. Okay, she's got range. She's got skill. The way she sings is perfect. But also, I don't want this to be a session where we just sit there and go, that Natasha girl, really, really fucking good at singing, and ignore the rest of the band.
Yeah,
the rest of the band are really, really good as well. Musically, as we always said, Korn is an extremely good poll. And not a poll I would have expected you to make, to be honest.
Oh, mate, I'm full of surprises.
And that's more a poll that I would go for. Like I never pinned you down as a Korn fan.
I like Korn. Korn are great.
Although I would pay to hear them do like the scat vocals, like from Freak on a Leash.
But she does go into these like glottal sort of sounds sometimes, and that's where I really got that from.
Well, yeah, it's an interesting poll as well, because Jonathan Davis is, I wouldn't necessarily say he's a unique vocalist, but the way he uses his voice is unique.
Yeah, well, and that's what makes Korn.
Here's an interesting factoid for you. Do you know what, and this is a Korn factoid, do you know what other band Jonathan Davis was related to? Or what other singer he's related to, sorry.
No.
He's the half-brother of Mark Chavez from Edema.
No way. That's mad.
Yeah. So Edema, the band who did Giving In, The Way You Like It, things like that, they were sort of somewhat big in like the early 2000s. Or early to mid 2000s, but they also did the theme for Mortal Kombat. I want to say 6, which was Immortal.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
Yeah, mate, I'm full of these facts.
You just know all of these random things.
I do. I'm going to see which Mortal Kombat it was now. It's Mortal Kombat Deadly Alliance. I know that much, but I can't remember like where it is in the fucking list of Mortal Kombat games. It's been far too many.
I think Mortal Kombat Deadly Alliance was like a big enough game that you don't need to say whether it was the 6th or 7th one.
I think it was the 5th.
All right. Well, that changes everything.
I'm trying to think, because I can't remember if it was the first one on PS2 or whatever, but it would have been around that sort of time. So I'm going to go 5th, and that'll be my final answer. All right. So where's my £1,000,000?
But yeah, I think if you're into like bands like Korn or Nine Inch Nails and that sort of stuff, I think some of the songs on this album you'll really dig, and they'll really grab you. And I think you'll be listening to them like not just once and think they're great, but you'll add them to your top of your playlist, and you'll listen to them as much as you listen to those other bands. It's really, really good. It's such a shame that they're actually so unknown.
I couldn't find any information about who did the production either, which is a shame, because the production on that album is phenomenal.
Yeah.
Everything sounds crisp, everything sounds clear. My only complaint about it, and this again might be because I tend not to listen on headphones too much, but the bass is really low down on the mix, apart from a couple of songs.
Fair. I mean, I don't know if I paid attention that much, but I didn't notice that when I was listening to it through headphones.
Oh, bear in mind, I've been listening to this album for years.
So fair.
I've had a lot more listens on it. But yeah, the bass is always quite low down on the mix, which when you want to transcribe the bass part is a pain in the ass, but also because they're fantastic songs. I want to play along with them. And I got a terrible ear, despite playing for, 14 years? 15 years almost.
Hey man, it's sometimes it's hard just to get that from listening to a song, and also like with this album, the guitar is so big and so loud that
the guitar is definitely the thing that's driving it all the way through the songs. It's guitar rock, just without the Bon Jovi-esque solos, or the Rich Sambora solos, however you want to say it.
Yeah,
a
lot of like real strong chords and a lot of sliding, really recognizable riffs. They do a good job of making the songs, like I said, it has a cohesive. The album has a cohesive sound, but they do a good job of making the songs sound quite similar to each other, but not too similar. It got on the verge of being the song sounding a bit samey, but I think they saved it with every song on this track.
Well, it's also lyrically as well. So I don't know if it's the lead singer who writes the lyrics, or if it was the rest of it, or if it's a sort of effort in unison with the whole band. But the lyrics are all quite poetic in the way they're written. It's hard to explain. So they're not quite as, say, poetic as Morrissey, but they evoke a sort of a more literal styling. So like Brand New with Deja Antonu.
Yeah. It's a lot like that.
If we're going to pull back to a potential previous episode.
Yeah.
But if you listen to a song like Swarm, it's, get back to your basement and toy with your flame whip, let them all die, let them all, I swear to God, I.
Yeah, it's a lot of imagery, and it's a lot of like evoking sort of the past, and not even like recent past, but going right back into history to make reference to make things more relatable today. It adds a grandeur to it, I suppose.
Well, yeah, and you going back to Swarm, you got our skin keeps all our secrets tight. Like this one's tight underneath mine. It's not the wordpulse you'd usually expect from just a normal, straightforward song.
Yeah.
Like if I was looking at literal choices, and English A level student here, guys, or former A level student, I got something in it. I think I got a D. So take it for what you will. Although my A levels did have the odd irony of spelling out the word dud. I got a D in drama, U in IT because I didn't do any work, and a D in English.
But you're so intelligent, Jake.
I know, but hey, intelligence isn't only measured academically.
Right, fair. That's true.
I could fucking A plus every subject if I went back now. apart from maths, science, stuff like that.
All of them.
Put it this way, I would need the willpower to even go back into those blessed halls of youth, sometimes called Estover.
So I wonder, I get the idea from this album as well that this was a long time project, as in they didn't make all of these songs for this album. They're songs that they've been making for years and years and years, and then put together as their first album, which is the case for most bands, I suppose.
Oh, it's fairly typical, isn't it? Your debut album's always your easiest in a way because you've already got the songs that you've been touring.
Yeah, I mean, but
which is why we've never made it.
But obviously, it can go one of either way. I mean, some people make a concept album as their first album. I mean, when we go back to what we last talked about when it was just us two with the Stone Roses, they basically they set out to make an album. It did take them some time, but they weren't necessarily just making songs and then went, yeah, well, now we can put together an album sort of thing.
Well, I think whenever anyone sets out, you always set out to make an album and dominate the world. At least that was always my goal. Even when we were back in Greece, I still assumed we were going to take over the world somehow. But yeah, you always set out with that in mind. But you just know that the touring aspect and writing songs is, you've got to do it in order to make yourself interesting. Because if you're just going out and being a cover band,
yeah, completely. It's just the reason I bring it up is because, like I said, it does sound like they were toying around with their sound quite a bit, and on this album, I love it because of that. But I wonder whether that could be a bit weird for someone listening to it. Is that they do play around with their sound a lot, and it does play around with doesn't necessarily play around with full genre, but it plays around with minute details in the genre.
As somebody who, I'll hands down say that one of my favorite albums of all time is And Justice for All, where it's straight heavy metal all the way through and full of anger,
crash all the way through, sort of thing. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, and other albums like Out Came the Wolves by Rancid, and I'm trying to think what other albums I like. I like music, people. I like music in all its forms, apart from dance, pop, and shit, and George Michael. I like music in all its forms, apart from those forms, and the Beatles. I hate the Beatles, but
no, you're so wrong. You're so
I'm,
wrong.
I'm laying it out here. The Beatles are wank.
You're wrong.
They stole black man's music.
You're so wrong. And also, that's really insensitive.
They did. Prove me wrong. Little Richard was doing shit better than them before they were doing it.
Fair. But no, but I'm not. But it's. I'm not claiming that the Beatles were original, but I'm claiming that they were still fucking amazing.
Nah, fuck Paul McCartney.
All right, whatever, mate.
That's my new one. I'm going bigger on this one. I've forgotten about Tom Morello. I'm going straight to the top. I'm going to
Yeah.
Macca himself.
Like we said, we set out to make this inaccessible. So.
Well, to be fair, I think we're approaching it like the BBC. So we've got the neutral standpoint here. You've got me, who's fucked the Beatles, and we've got you, who's pro Beatles. I just think they're overrated.
Wow.
And having to listen to the notion that they're this greatest band of all time, nah, there are better bands around at
You
that time.
you got to take into. We're going on a massive tangent and an argument, but you got to take into account that you're listening to it so many years after it is made. Like, yeah, there's music
that doesn't stop me liking Sabbath. It doesn't stop me liking Deep Purple. It doesn't stop me liking Led Zeppelin or the Who.
No, but you could potentially say the same things. Is that you could say, well, yeah, but they're not that all original, or other people have done it better since, or you know, I mean, you've got to look at it through the lens of time. Like, yeah, you don't like straightforward rock and roll as much as most people, so you don't necessarily think that they're the amazing band that so many other people do. But that's because you're not a fan of that genre. And because you're not,
motherfucker. How can you defend that?
What, the lyricism? No one.
John Lennon was a wife-beating asshole.
Oh wow.
He was. That's fact. He did beat Yoko Ono, and I know some people listening going, "Good," but you don't beat women.
Wow. Yeah. No. Of course you don't.
That's not a good thing.
But again, like we had this conversation before the podcast started, but like whether you like someone as a human, we talked about it before as well. Whether you like someone as a human being or not, you can like their music separately. I mean, one of my favorite bands, as we've already established loads of times, is the Stone Roses. But I can condone that. Ian Brown is so arrogant, and I completely understand if no one likes him. I'm not sure if I met him personally, I'd like him, but I think his music's great.
Not as arrogant as Lennon and McCartney.
But I still think their music's great. That's my point. Is whether you like them as human beings or not.
I can never get into their music. And to be fair, yeah, like with the stuff that I love, it's always harder. But if you were to ask Lemmy if he were still alive, rest his soul, Lemmy was a god.
Yeah.
But if you were to ask Lemmy, like, what does he envisage himself as? He would say rock and roll, and he'll always say that Little Richard was one of his favourite artists of all time.
Yeah,
he wouldn't sit there and go, "Oh yes, well, Come Together really made me." Probably because he was wind at the time, but
But of course, there are a load of artists out there that would say that.
Yeah, but those artists need to have their brains examined. That's my view on the whole matter. You aren't winning this argument. I've got a small legion behind me.
All right, fair.
Consisting of like maybe 2 people who are anti-Beatles. Although I'm probably more anti-McCartney solo stuff or stuff with the Wings.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, like with me, maybe I'm just more diplomatic than you, but I would turn around and say like I'm not a fan of McCartney solo stuff as well. It's like with George Michael. I don't like George Michael stuff, but I wouldn't turn around and say it's shit or overrated because people do love it for good reason.
That's why it's overrated. That's the thing. If people didn't love it, I wouldn't have an issue with it.
Anything you don't like is overrated.
Not necessarily. I don't like Rihanna, and she's overrated.
Yeah, there you go.
No, it's the thing of, because like growing up and getting into music and becoming a musician myself, you always hear, well, the Beatles was the most important thing to happen to rock music. No, the blues was. The blues was the most important thing to happen. And then following that, rock and roll with, like I said, Little Richard. Those are the keystones.
Yeah, but then the Beatles are another keystone. And then you just weigh the importance of it depending on your own personal preference. But you can't deny that they're a keystone. That's like saying I don't like that's like if someone said they don't like Nirvana, you go fair enough, but you can understand the impact they made.
Nirvana made a bigger impact than the Beatles did. Nirvana
that's so wrong.
No, Nirvana changed an entire soundscape. The Beatles didn't. The Beatles took what was already there. They played their own stuff, but other bands came up around at the same similar sort of time as them. and they were much more influential on the music going forward.
No, but people wouldn't say that. Like, if you look at bands, so many bands since the Beatles, they would personally say the Beatles were a massive influence. And then you also got to look at cultural impact as well. The Beatles clearly had a massive cultural impact. That's just history, and that's just true.
No, I don't take my cultural leads from a bunch of Scousers. As people will know, I'm quite obtuse in some of these arguments. A hill to die on, and it's not always the right hill. But no, I think musically, yes, they had an impact, but they weren't necessarily. It didn't necessarily have the same impact that people say that they've had.
No, of course, everyone looks at history and romanticizes it or makes it bigger than it was. But
I'm going to pull up a BoJack Horseman quote here. You know, sometimes when you look through rose-tinted glasses, the red flags that you're seeing are just red flags.
Yeah. But the thing is you're pretending that you're arguing with someone who is saying that they're the most influential band of all time, but you're not. I'm just saying that they clearly were really influential and they clearly were really important, and I am a massive fan. But I'm not going to pretend that they're as influential as someone as, like, I'm not going to pretend they're more influential than, say, someone like Elvis or Bowie, who I would put them all on the same level as being so influential.
I would say I'll concede this point. The Beatles were probably influential in terms of songwriting. I think musically they did a couple of things that were new.
Production-wise, definitely.
Production-wise, yeah, but production, the influences come from the producers, not necessarily from the Beatles.
Yeah, but Lennon and McCartney worked really, really closely with their producers.
Yeah, but as I've already established, I don't care what Lennon and McCartney did. I'd much prefer to hear about George Harrison, who was the talented one of the Beatles.
Yeah, fair. I mean, I think that's a general consensus now as well, that everyone loves George Harrison.
Well, yeah, he funded Life of Brian.
Yeah, he did.
And appeared in Life of Brian. So he's had more of a cultural impact in my eyes.
Yeah, but that's the point. That's the point I'm making. Your eyes.
Yeah, fair enough. This is very much like a single crusade. I'm flying the flag for fuck the Beatles.
Yeah.
Episode title, like, right there.
Because I don't mind. We're getting onto a topic about influence and stuff like that, but so we will get back to the album, I swear, to anyone listening. But like, you just got to take into account as well is the subculture you belong in, or what you're aware of as well, because like you could also talk about how influential people are. Like, people talk about how influential the Beatles were because of how many people there that viewed them, which was a lot, and they were the pop music of the time, and they obviously young people of the time who grew up and had kids and talked to their kids about the Beatles. There was a lot of them, so people are all hearing this through a biased point of view, and that's the way it works. And obviously you can go into more factual conversations, and obviously they still had a big influence there, but you just have to take into account the subculture and who grows up and who tells their kids what. And like, people forget about stuff like James Brown. Obviously a load of people don't forget about stuff like the influence James Brown has, but a load of people aren't aware of it as well because you're not in the subculture. When you talk about James Brown and like his music, his funk, and his dancing, that actually, became a massive influence on stuff like breakdancing and hip hop. Not everyone will know about how massively influential he was, but it's just because it hits a wider scope, a wider audience.
Speaking of James Brown and sort of culture impact, did you ever watch the film When We Were Kings, which is the documentary about Rumble in the Jungle?
No, I haven't seen that, no.
Well, it was so Rumble in the Jungle, for anyone who doesn't know, is Muhammad Ali versus George Foreman. Ali sort of coming back after being out of boxing for several years because he refused to be drafted into the Vietnam War.
Yeah.
He embedded himself in African culture and became sort of hailed as an icon throughout that period, where George Foreman was very standoffish and didn't get that same level of appreciation. But throughout that whole film, a lot of it culminates with a massive concept beforehand, which had James Brown on it.
Right.
And his music is a massive on that whole thing. and it was massive in sort of bringing the popularity of that fight up as well.
Yeah.
Bear in mind, it was going to be a big fight anyway, and people, that does have a cultural impact because people will still sit there and talk about rope-a-dope and things like that.
Yeah.
Which was Muhammad Ali's technique of sort of leaning against the ropes, moving
Yeah.
away from the punches, or absorbing the body shots, at least from George Foreman. And yeah, people check out that fight. Welcome to the boxing podcast, where we talk about classic fights from history. Also check out Arturo Gatti versus Mickey Ward, any of the trilogy. They're all good fights. It's cool. I'll move on to MMA next. So if you want any good MMA fights, Rory McDonald versus Robbie Lawler 2, bloodiest fight in history. It's beautiful. See that, guys?
I think that says so much about you. Bloodiest fight in history was beautiful.
Well, yeah, fair enough. I, despite spending all of my life going, I'm not a macho stereotype, I sit there and go, yeah, blood and guts, they fought each other. Ooh. Because that's how I assume that us males have got to act. They were blood. They were like gladiators. They were awesome. But no, I can like less physical pursuits.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair enough.
I don't know. I can try at some point. For anyone who doesn't know, I'm half jock, half nerd. Describe myself. I've got one foot in either camp.
Yeah, that's a good way to be.
So now to take us off this tangent that I clearly started and force us down this path of our videos, let's go back to the album.
Yes, yeah.
Just in my radio voice. Hello, welcome.
I don't know, it's sinister. I don't like it. It's a very sinister voice.
I describe it as sexual. Hello.
And therefore, so you describe your radio voice, your professional radio voice, as sexual.
Yeah.
That would go well on a CV.
That's why they call me sexual green.
That's why what, sorry?
Why they call me sexual green.
They call you sexual green. Rinky Dink the sexual green.
Rinky Tink has another new nickname, which is the aim of this whole podcast. I just want a nickname. It wasn't about my intelligence at all. But hello, we are here on Radio 1.
We're not on Radio 1.
Can you feel the juice?
Not lie. I'm not going to sit here and pretend.
I've torpedoed. Well, actually saying that, Alice Levine, she's just left Radio 1, so...
Oh, so we can take that spot?
Yeah, there's a gap in the market.
There you go. Send this clip over with your sexual voice.
What would be your radio voice?
I'm not going to play into that.
Hello.
My radio voice is the normal Jana voice that I have right now, which is completely unbearable.
Here, I'm on the radio, bird.
Get on, bye. I'm on the radio.
Whereas I much prefer these soothing tones which will vibrate in panties across the nation. What have I done? Have I done it again?
Yeah, you've done it again.
Yes. The whole aim of this podcast is just to let me loose and burn down everything in my path. Oh, it's a good job we're not in a cancel culture environment, eh?
A lot of the time, I feel like I've found myself in a reverse zoo. It's like a social experiment where I've put myself safely in the confines of a cage while the gorilla runs rampant around me.
You calling me a gorilla? I find that offensive. I'm much more like a gazelle.
You're much
Elegant.
Again, we're going back to perception.
No, I'm definitely a gazelle. That's fact. It's not even perception based. Anybody who knows me would say, despite being a bit on the tubby side, he's a beautiful gazelle of a man.
Yeah. I go, oh, my mate Jake. You know Jake. They're like, oh, I don't know who you're talking about. I'm like, oh, you know, the gazelle. And they're like, oh, Jake. Oh.
Yeah, I could see him.
Majesty.
I can see him flying across the plains of the savannah at gallop.
Yeah. Oh yeah, you're talking about majestic Jake. Yeah.
Yes, the pure majesty of that man. This, ladies and gentlemen, is why I can't walk through doors. My head is so big off of arrogance. We talk about Ian Brown being an arrogant motherfucker.
I think you two would get along.
Oh no, arrogance hates arrogance. That's the weird thing.
Is that how it goes? And that's why you hate the Beatles?
I wouldn't necessarily describe them as arrogant. I'd describe them as cunts.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, come on, you can't sit there and go, well, McCartney, not a cunt. Look, he has written 1 minute of good music.
Right, it doesn't make him a cunt of a human being, even if that's true.
1 minute of good music. Plus, he fucked a crazy peg-leg woman.
Oh my goodness, man.
1 minute of good music. Do you want to know what that 1 minute was?
Go on, what's your opinion on that 1 minute of good music?
I can see you've lost control here, haven't you? You're supposed to be here to let me in.
No, I'm just so disappointed. I'm sad. People can probably hear my voice lower in complete sadness and shame.
So that 1 minute of good music, it wasn't a Beatles song. It was a song by Wings.
Okay.
It was, oh god, I was going to make a really old joke then about Linda McCartney, but I thought,
No.
It's an old joke, people, which was...
No, don't say the joke. Don't, like we just said, you were going to say the joke. We're moving past that. We're better men than that.
It was somewhat misogynistic in a way, but the old joke was basically around Linda McCartney wasn't a great singer, but she would always try and sing. So it was what you call a pig with wings. Linda McCartney. I've tanked it. I've done it. I've finally destroyed the episodes. We're going to lock them in a vault and burn them so nobody hears them. But the 1 minute of good music was Band on the Run.
Oh, wow.
Which
I wouldn't have thought you'd like that song, actually.
I don't. I like 1 minute of that song.
Oh, right, yeah, good point.
The rest of the song is trash. It's a terrible fucking song.
So what about... So wait, so not Eleanor Rigby? That's not good music to you?
No. Nor's Come Together.
Wow. I swear you used to like Eleanor Rigby. That's,
it's a difference. I could tolerate Eleanor Rigby.
Right.
Doesn't necessarily mean I like it.
Okay, fair.
Just like I tolerate my father. Doesn't necessarily.
Oh god! All right. Yeah, it's suddenly clear in my head. I understand. Okay.
Right. So, Band on the Run, not the intro. I think it's the second part of the song, if I remember rightly, where it goes into that heavy riff where it's like dun 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 dun. That's really good up until the keys come in from Linda McCartney, and then then it goes off that riff and he starts singing about being a band on the run, and I'm like, fuck off, McCartney.
I just can't wait for one day that, like, if we do make it, which would be
there's no ifs about it. Let's face it, we're gonna make it based purely on this podcast.
I love that there's just going to be a hit list of celebrities that want your head.
Oh, do you remember how Deadpool gets his name from the list of people they reckon's going to die next to Deadpool up above the bar? Mm-hmm. That's what it's like for me.
Yeah.
He's the next to die. Ozzy's going to last forever. Aren't he? I'll give him 6 months.
Oh wow.
So you might be
I hope you're really going to be like really shameful if that happens now. Not that we believe in fate or anything, but you know, it's not nice to say these bad things about people. They're just making music, man. They're just trying to. I sounded like such a hippie then as I said that. They're just making music, man.
They just make beautiful colours, man. Yeah, you would have got on with 70s Beatles, wouldn't you?
I do. I love psychedelic Beatles is my favourite kind of Beatles.
Sat there with your fucking yogis. Show me how to do transcendental meditation, man. Fuck off. Go write some music, like actual music, you cunts. Don't just take 4/4 pentatonic runs, alright? Bullshit. All I want is 3 chords. I want 3 chords and I want them to be played with power chords. And I want them to be violent.
You want them to be violent?
Yeah. I think my issue with them is I always want bands to have, and again, this can be a very male-centric statement, I want bands to have balls.
Right.
I want them to be in your face, spitting and snarling.
Right.
Motorhead wouldn't have made it if they sang fucking, Hold My Hand or whatever, would they?
No, completely, but that's different times.
Not really. Lemmy's been around since the dawn of time. up until recently, where he's not been seen in the last couple of years, but we just assume he's taken a hiatus from the earth.
Yeah. But
it does say something about me, doesn't it, really?
Yeah, it does.
I'm more of a punk rocker.
Yeah, I get that. Like,
if you stick me in
it's perfectly understandable to not like the Beatles. I mean, like I said, I've never been a fan of bands like Manic Street Preachers, but like where me and you differ is I can still appreciate the history and the talent and the impact, and like without enjoying the music, I can understand why people love them. Which is different with the Beatles, because I do love the Beatles, but this is where I'm talking about the difference.
There's a logical misstep on your idealism here, though.
What's that?
You assume that history is not written by the winners. You assume that history is neutral.
No, I'm not assuming that at all.
You totally are. Look at you.
No,
Look at
I'm
your
not.
face.
That's like saying that you're saying I like the Beatles and I love the Beatles just because everyone else loves them.
I'm just waiting for you to tell me that all the bombing in Vietnam was necessary.
No, whoa, let's not. No. To be clear, my stance is no bombing of any kind is necessary.
Hiroshima, we had to do that.
No, oh no, let's not get on that.
Nagasaki, it was needed.
No, and for anybody who doesn't understand Jake's form of sarcasm, he does not believe these things.
Are you speaking for me, man? I have opinions on it.
I'm trying to save you.
Nobody can save me but myself. I've learned that the hard way. Funnily enough, speaking about, and yes, bombing's not necessary. And there'll probably be people, well, we already know what the listenership is. There's probably people who aren't listening, but may listen eventually in the future, who are like, well, no, those bombings were necessary. No, they fucking weren't. But, and the same goes for Vietnam, the Iraq wars.
Any war.
Yeah, I'm a pacifist. But I'm also, he likes to be snarling in people's faces. It's a dichotomy, I understand.
Yeah.
Going back to the Manics, though. I think I'm right in saying it's their first single. It's the first single with a music video. I know that much. Motown Junk. That had a line about the Beatles in it.
Oh, really? What was that?
After when Lennon got shot.
Yeah, what is it?
I just told you I laughed when Lennon got shot.
Oh, you laughed. I thought you said after Lennon got shot. I was like, well, yeah, of course they wrote it after Lennon got shot.
Oh, no.
Where are you going?
I laughed when Lennon got shot. 21 years of living. Nothing means anything to me. Motown Junk, a lifetime slavery.
Yeah, but aren't those lyrics ironic or like
It was their statement at the time.
Sarcastic.
I think at the time they believed it, but I'm pretty sure, I could be wrong in saying this, but I'm pretty sure when they sing it nowadays, they don't have that lyric.
Right.
I think they've sort of changed over time.
Fair.
But I remember hearing that for the first time and going, yes! And also, anyone who listens to this podcast, they've just got me singing.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
That's
it. There you go. That's a rare one right there.
Going back to the album. Because I realised I sidetracked us with my radio voice. Ooh, hello there. So, going back to the album, it's time we do the deal. Favorite songs.
The favorite song. Well, I think
it's our favorite songs. Oh yeah. That's our little.
Is that a little segment leading into it?
Yeah.
You sound like Macho Man Randy Savage.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm. Cream
favorite
of the
songs.
7 to a Slim Jims. Oh yeah. I'd like to think that's the only impression I can do. If you want, I can.
You'd like to think that, yeah.
Well, I thought I did the right impression. I might be able to do a little bit of Dusty Rhodes. I don't know, but
it's better than any I could do.
Yes. Austin
anyway,
says I just whooped your ass. I can't do an Austin.
I think your favourite song, I think you've already made it clear, but I reckon your favourite song is Serotonin.
Yeah.
Yep. And
two songs, to be fair.
Pardon?
There's two there, so equal on my eyes.
So the other one I actually originally was going to go for, I've got to look back at the list now, is Kill Me by Inches, was the other song I thought you were going to pick.
You're close.
Ooh.
You're close, at least in terms of musically. Like, I love that song.
Right.
I do love that song. If I'm listening to the song, there is if I'm listening to that album, there's 1, 2, 3. There's 4 songs that I would pick out that I immediately want to listen to.
Yeah.
Which I think head and shoulders above everything else. Kill Me by Inches is one of them.
Mm-hmm.
Better Than You is the other one.
Mm-hmm.
And for people who just didn't spot that, Connor was trying to hide his microphone so he could cough without anybody hearing.
Oh, did it
It
fail?
failed. It failed
No.
massively. All we could hear was like you rattling around in the background and then going,
Someone's got to try and be professional.
hey, I had to cough. I muted my mic.
I can't mute this mic. At least I
Yeah.
don't know how.
You should try better.
I'm sorry.
But better New You is the other one out of that 4, but there's one left.
Right.
I'll give you a clue. It starts with the same letter as serotonin.
Oh, well, then that should be easy. Swarm.
Yeah. Yeah. It was a song that introduced me to them.
Right,
I think it's got our vocals are brilliant in it, Natasha's vocals. And
yeah,
serotonin's my favourite though, because it speaks everything about me. It speaks about depression. Talks about
I mean, I completely understand.
Serotonin as well, for people who don't know, is there's a wide held belief that that's part of what causes depression, so a lack of serotonin.
Yeah, I mean, isn't there something there's something in like lobsters they found that no. This is me. Like, I love that. I'm about to try and say something intelligent, and the first thing I go is, yeah, isn't that about lobsters that they found? No, but it's supposed to it's a chemical that they studied lobsters and found a lot about from studying lobsters, which is I think it's to do with the more serotonin you have is when you're the victor and when you have more mates and everything like that, and it helps it does physical stuff like you stand up straighter and everything like that. It's supposed to do, the more serotonin you have, the more chemically balanced your brain is to be happier, sort of thing.
The key thing to take away from this is the main drugs that we put on for depression or antidepressants are SSRIs, which are serotonin reuptake inhibitors.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, those are to help correct your balance. So anyone who's been on sertraline, citalopram, anything like that.
Yeah.
It's so that's why the song title immediately jumps out at me. Whereas, mine is a selective serotonin reuptake inhibitor. I don't know the difference. I don't care.
Know the difference. Fair.
I know I take my happy pills, and they make relatively little difference.
Yeah. But I mean, yeah. I'm just I tried with the lobster thing and it failed.
You threw a pitch out, it didn't quite work. No. It happens to the best of us.
Yeah, it does.
Not me.
I'm not going to pretend to be smart. I'm not smart.
I am.
I know some things about some things, and that's it.
I'm extremely intelligent. I know facts.
All right, so tell me a fact, Jake. What's my favourite song on the album?
Oh, I see what you did there. I was hoping you were just going to leave it at tell me a fact, because I've got tons of them. Octopus wrestling was big in the 50s in America. I'm going to read you. I haven't thought of this in advance, by the way. This is something that I've just loved the idea of it.
Did you say octopus wrestling?
Octopus wrestling, yes. So a diver would go in and grapple with an octopus in shallow water and drag it to the surface.
Well, so it's not two octopuses wrestling. It's a man and an octopus.
Octopi, I think.
Oh, sorry.
You know, my stern lecturer voice. I'm coming out with all sorts of... That's what I could do, actually. Rather than calling my sexy voice my radio voice, I'm calling it my lecturer voice instead.
Okay,
so
okay.
We've got a lecturer voice and we've got a lecturer voice. For those who like, those who like the English language. So, no, it wasn't octopus versus octopus. But there was an World Octopus Wrestling World Championship, World Octopus Wrestling Championship, sorry. And they basically, divers, they had to grapple with the octopus and get it to the surface.
What?
You think I'm making this up?
No, I don't think you're making this up. That's the thing. I have enough knowledge about the human race now to understand that that's something that's definitely happened. It never entered my brain as something that did happen.
So the World Octopus Wrestling Championship, this actually took place in the 60s, but it was more of a spectator sport in the 50s. 111 divers took part in it, sorry. And you want to know the grand total of giant Pacific octopuses? Octopuses is the correct plural, by the way. I was just being facetious.
Okay.
Do you want to know how many they managed to capture that day?
How many?
25.
Oh my goodness.
And
giant octopus?
giant Pacific octopus. So I'm not too sure how much that it ranges anywhere between 4 to 57 pounds that they caught. But there was a deal. There was a deal for them to televise the championship, but they didn't catch sufficient octopus to really interest people.
What? I
gonna,
can't believe it. It sounds like a foolproof plan.
I am going to read you the greatest quote. It's from an article about a man named O'Rourke, who is the father of octopus wrestling.
Right.
I've had to bring this up because it's one of my favourite quotes of all time about anything. Some people sit there and go, yeah, my favourite quote is to be or not to be, or, all that kind of nonsense. They will start throwing Shakespeare at you. No, mine's about octopus wrestling from 1964. So this is done by H. Allen Smith, who wrote an article for True magazine in 1964. So all this while O'Rourke was becoming perhaps the world's greatest authority on the thought processes and the personality of the octopus. He knew how to outmaneuver them, to outflank them, to outthink them. He knew full well many years ago what today's octopus wrestlers are just beginning to learn.
Today's octopus wrestlers. Wait, this is an ongoing thing?
No, this is 1964 he wrote this in.
Oh, right, yes, of course. Yeah.
This is just after the World Championships. It gets so much better. They're beginning to learn that it is impossible for a man with 2 arms to apply full Nelson on an octopus. He knew well the futility of trying to try for a crotch hold on an opponent with 8 crotches. I've killed Connor.
That's the best thing I've ever heard.
See what I mean? Greatest quote about anything.
Oh my goodness, I'm so glad you've gone on this tangent. I'm so glad I asked for a fact. Wow.
Futility of trying for a crotch hold on an opponent with 8 crotches.
Everything about that is insane.
It's amazing, isn't it?
And that got published.
That got published in True magazine in 1964.
Oh my goodness, the 60s were wild, man.
You can tell it's from.
I can't believe that they tried to make octopus wrestling a proper sport. That's so weird and wrong on multiple different levels.
I'm pretty sure it would have started as like a crossover thing because like 2 of the biggest spectator sports around that sort of time would have been boxing and pro wrestling.
Right.
So pro wrestling, I don't know what the stats were in the 60s so much for viewership, but it was one of the largest cable or terrestrial coverages, and each area had their own territory that we showed on TV. So I reckon it's somebody who'd gone, well, wrestling's a big deal. We're looking at Frank Gotch, or Carl Gotch rather, not Frank Gotch. Who's Frank Gotch? Why am I thinking of Frank? Who's Frank?
No, stay on the tangent. Don't go on another tangent.
Tell me who Frank Gotch is. Oh no, it is Frank Gotch. What am I fucking talking about?
No one knows, Jake. This is
Frank Gotch was also a professional wrestler, but Carl Gotch is probably the more famous one because he was listed as the god of wrestling. But sort of in the 60s, you had the NWA was still around, so you had guys like Luthez and that as well. So I reckon somebody was watching their pro wrestling at some point and going, I know what we'll do. There's an ocean near here. I'll bet you there's an octopus. Let's go wrestle the octopus. And they can imagine somebody hitting like the tombstone pile driver on an octopus.
Oh my goodness.
Somebody choke slamming an octopus.
Oh my.
I don't think that's what they're doing. They were doing more sort of catch as catch can style wrestling, or Greco-Roman wrestling with the octopus.
Still sounds horrible. It sounds absolutely horrible and weird. And who would watch that?
Apparently people did.
Madness.
It made money.
Madness.
But
anything
do you reckon you could take out an octopus?
Not even, no, not even slightly.
Just remember though, don't go for a full Nelson or a crotch hold.
No, I will keep that in mind. That's good, useful information to know. All the times I've seen an octopus and just been terrified and known, oh my goodness, I definitely can't do a full Nelson on them. I don't know how else I'm going to win this fight.
Whatever you do as well, don't try for a low blow. Don't do a Ric Flair.
No, yeah, okay, yeah.
Send it in and just poof. Because I don't know if they've got external genitalia. I don't imagine they do.
I don't think they do, no.
Your favourite song?
Yeah, my favourite song.
I reckon it's going to be something that's got a bit more of a dance in it. Have you already mentioned your song?
No, I haven't mentioned my favourite song.
Okay. So, this is harder on this one. Because I don't know whether yours is going to be something like Underling, but you've already mentioned that, or Paraben Paraphernalia. Or is it going This is hard. I don't like the way you're looking at me now either. That look in your eyes of like, I know something you don't know. What do you know?
You're very musical today, Jake. You're very musical.
And I'm
With
sober. This is what happens. I bust out into musical. One boy for sale. He's going cheap. Only 7 guineas. That's or thereabouts. It's amazing. I could sing that back when I was 12 than I can now, and my balls have dropped since then. At least I assume they have. I don't know. I could be like a castrati. I could be, or castrati, however you pronounce it. Those were the singers who had their nuts destroyed.
Back to the song.
Oh yeah, we're doing this thing here, aren't we?
Yeah.
This is gonna be our longest episode yet because it's just me going off on things.
I know. We've still got another album. We may have to save it for another time.
No, we're gonna do that other fucking album. We're gonna do it good.
Okay.
We're gonna do it good. Underling, I'm going for.
You would be wrong, my friend.
I know I'm wrong.
So basically, I enjoy the whole album quite a lot, and to be honest, the whole album for me sits at every song sits at a very similar level because I do like all of it, and I like all of the experimenting they do. Despite the fact that I do find it more interesting when they do go into the more corn-like sound. I've gone for a song that actually isn't like that at all. Which is it's one of their more straightforward songs, but I did bop my head to it all the way through. So it's called Hard Fanatic, that one.
Okay, that's an old pick.
Yeah, I just really enjoyed it. I think it's because it's got this same rumbling, consistent beat going all the way through it, and they basically play the whole song around that. And I love her vocals in that song. I love her vocals in the whole album. I don't know, for me that song, maybe it just hit me in the right time because I do like the whole album about the same as much as ever, but that song stood out to me.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
I was the same pretty much for the 4 songs that I mentioned. Like, out of the entire album, the album is mostly consistent on quality. Those were the 4 that stood out to me.
Yeah.
So what we'll do then, firstly, before we go on to your album, let's have one thing to say. Mad Young Darlings, if you are still, I don't know why I say darlings in a really flowery way. Mad Young Darlings, hello darlings. I say it like proper British aristocracy. So Mad Young Darlings, if you are still around, if you're still out there, still alive, still listening, not to this. I don't know why I'm suggesting you are. That would be a terrible idea. Don't listen to this. It's awful. If you're around, come back. You're amazing.
Yeah, make another album because this was really good, really, really good album, and people should listen to it.
And go outside of Canada for fuck's sake. Nobody wants to be there with the crazy Canucks. I know they got Tim Hortons and all that. Come over here. We'll take you in the UK.
Canada. I like Canada a lot.
It's a nice place. I'm not saying it's not, but they got flappy heads and beady eyes. If I've learned anything, yeah.
If you get all your education from Southwark, then yeah.
Yeah, particularly Kyle's mum. With all their beady little eyes and flappy heads. Blame Canada. All I can think of now is, let me finish. I'm finished. Oh, you're right, I have gone weird this episode.
Yeah.